My name is Nicola.white. I'm a licensed Thames mudlark, well known for mudlarking on the River Thames and for researching the stories behind the objects I find. What happened when I handed over 10 of my mudlarking finds from Greenwich and Deptford in southeast London to 10 heritage trainees to research? What untold histories and intriguing facts did they uncover during the 7-week Lost and Found project? Come with me during this exclusive 10-part Lost and Found series to meet the trainees and to hear what their research has revealed. The Lost and Found project is produced by the Thames Festival Trust and made possible by a grant from the National Lottery Heritage Fund.
Hi everyone, welcome to a wet and drizzly Thames foreshore. Today we're going to meet one of the 10 heritage trainees that studied one of my finds from the Deptford Greenwich area. And so whilst I'm waiting, I'm going to pour myself a cup of tea and wait till she arrives. And in fact, oh, there she is, Samir, hi.
Hello.
It's lovely to see you. Thank you so much for coming down here on this drizzly day.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. Hi everyone, my name's Samir Hassan and I was one of the 10 heritage trainees that took part in the Lost and Found project.
And what did you choose to study?
Well, I chose to study this set of 7 barnacles.
Well, look at them there, barnacles on a bed of red velvet. So you chose the barnacles. So we're going to find out what Samir has found out about those barnacles, what journey they've taken her on. But before we do that, let's go back in time to when I found some barnacles on the Thames foreshore, maybe about a year ago. Now just down here is a huge barnacle. Look at it, it's massive. I love these. And of course it's not native to the Thames. It's likely been brought in on a ship, on the hull of a ship, hundreds of years ago. And then they would remove these barnacles to make the ship more streamlined and to prevent damage. And I think they called it careening. I was looking it up recently. The act of taking these barnacles off was called careening the ship. I've got quite a few of these. And then they often used to put copper sheathing on the hulls of the ships to protect them against barnacles and shipworm and ship rot and all that kind of thing, and to ensure that the ship could sail a lot more effectively and not be damaged, and also go a lot faster and not be hindered by things like barnacles. Something about them though. Gosh, I remember that day really well. I remember each day that I found all of my finds actually. And now I've gone on to find about 7 or 8 barnacles. Yeah, most of which are here in this box. So I would like to ask you some questions about the barnacles. Firstly, why did you choose the barnacles to study?
Well, to be honest, I was torn between 2 objects, these barnacles and a medal. But I didn't want to do the medal because through my undergraduate degree I already had experience researching objects that had textual evidence either on the object or directly related to the object. And even before the project I knew I was interested in environmental history, so by studying the barnacles I knew that I'd be challenging myself as well as getting the chance to look at a visual object that is a natural material. And I was very curious as well about the type of questions that I'd be asking as I'd be researching the object.
And you know, they are very tactile, aren't they?
Yes, yes.
There's something about them. They're so beautiful. And immediately when I found them, I knew they weren't native to London. But my research didn't really go much further than that. So I'm so interested to hear what you've got to say. And I have, of course, read some of your essay. And I've been very rude because I haven't even offered you a cup of tea.
No,
would you like a cup of tea?
I would love a cup of tea.
In a Tideline art mug?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's do that. Cup of tea is just what we need on a drizzly day like today.
It'll keep us warm.
Yes. Yeah. So, yes, there's your tea.
Thank you so much.
So, read the Barnacles. Can you tell us, my viewers and I, maybe 2 or 3 significant facts that you'd like us to know about these barnacles, please?
Well, first of all, I'd say, like you said, they're very inviting. You know, no 2 barnacles, even from this set, look the same. For instance, you have a barnacle that looks like this and a barnacle that looks like this one. And so through my research, I learned about different barnacle species. So, for example, these barnacles are Hamer's barnacles, and a fun fact about them is that they can be formed through younger specimens forming themselves on top of older specimens. Whereas there's another barnacle species known as the boy barnacles, and they do not need to attach themselves onto something, so they just drift afloat on the water, so they're not often found on ships. And the other significant thing is that I think I would like your viewers to be perhaps a little bit more aware of the heavy impact that mass consumption and human needs have on the environment. But that's not to say that it's necessarily a bad thing. But you know, as we progress and as technology develops, there are effects that I don't feel are necessarily conversed in conversations or that we are aware of. Not just directly to the objects they are affecting, such as the barnacles, but they can be indirect consequences that I think we should all be a bit more mindful of.
Thank you very much, Samir. Now, I have read some of your essay, which I really enjoyed reading, and I noticed that you had pointed out that some of these barnacles have got, well, most of them actually, have got flat bottoms, which indicates that they have been scraped off of a hull of a ship.
Yeah.
The place where I found them is somewhere where there was a lot of shipbuilding and ship repairs. And so these barnacles would have been taken off, presumably to help the ship go faster.
Yeah, barnacles and other marine materials that would attach themselves to the hulls of ships would slow down the speed at which these ships could travel, and that would have consequences for things, for example, in trade. So when Britain as an empire, for example, would be competing with, let's say, the Dutch, you wouldn't want to lose those seconds in order to deliver your exports.
The other thing I underlined was something I didn't realise actually: the mass gathering of unwanted organisms on surfaces such as ships' hulls is known as biofouling and has been described as the mariner's curse ever since man first set sail. So it's interesting, isn't it, that a barnacle can be almost looked at as an enemy.
Yeah, exactly. And even so, when I first started my research into the barnacles, I was really interested in how they manifest in human culture and just that sort of entangled relationship and complex dynamic that humans and barnacles have. So, like, for example, like I learnt that, you know, copper and lead were used for a really long time as a way to prevent barnacles attaching themselves to hulls. Something that didn't make it into the essay, for example, I found out that barnacles may have been used as a type of punishment on pirate ships.
Really?
Yeah, so I didn't delve into it, but I learnt that they would sort of like dangle sailors onto parts of the ships that had a lot of barnacles on it. So yeah, interesting history we have with barnacles.
Yeah, because they are actually quite sharp, aren't they? And you've put here, through researching barnacles found on the Thames foreshore, I've discovered the way in which these crustaceans persistently challenge human preconceptions of authority. And the other one I wanted to mention, which I found quite fascinating actually, the cement glands barnacles use to attach to hard surfaces are strong enough that they can remain attached even after death.
Unless forcefully removed, a barnacle will accompany a vessel on its journey and remain in place even when shipwrecked.
So you could just think about how much force would be needed to use when they're careening ships, for example, to actually get them off the hulls.
Yeah, absolutely. So would you say that these barnacles have inspired you? And if so, how?
Yeah, I'd say they definitely.
That's a funny question, isn't it? Have you been inspired by a barnacle?
Yeah, well, funny you mentioned that. Like just now, even when we were speaking, the first thing I thought of was this quote that I found. So supposedly, an American politician, whose name is John William Gardner, I believe. He delivered a speech. I couldn't find the original source for the speech, but supposedly in the end he advises people to not be a barnacle.
Oh, okay. Don't be a barnacle, people.
Don't be a barnacle, everyone. And in that sense, it's to inspire people to not remain put in where they are.
That's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah. I guess that's one way. And another, I would just say, to continue engaging with natural materials and being a bit more curious about what the river and other bodies of water have for us.
Thank you so much, Samir. Honestly, I've learnt a wealth of information now about barnacles that I never knew that I needed to know. And so we could pop up now perhaps and have a look at the Cutty Sark, because that's a ship that would definitely have had a lot of barnacles on it at some point.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
So unfortunately there's a private event today at the Cutty Sark, so we can't get too close, but the bottom of the ship is covered with copper sheathing, which was a preventative measure used to prevent barnacles like these from attaching itself to the hull. But unfortunately it wasn't that effective, so barnacles would still attach themselves and therefore the ships would still need to be careened. And that's why biocides like the one I mentioned in the essay were invented as a paint that would prevent barnacles from attaching at all.
Thank you very much. What a great example. We're so lucky in Greenwich to have this majestic Cutty Sark ship. Well, Samir has written an excellent essay about barnacles, and I like the title of it, 7 Barnacles. Barnacles, the bane of our being. Now you can read Samir's essay for free by going to the Thames Festival Trust website. I'll put the details up here, and you can also download this lost and found book absolutely for free from the website. And I'll also be giving you details as to how you can actually receive a hard copy by just paying the shipping. So thank you again, Samir. It's been an absolute pleasure to see you. Thank you for coming to meet me on this miserable day. I bet you never thought you'd be having a cup of tea in the rain on the foreshore.
No, but it'll be a delightful memory that I'll always hold to my heart.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.